My name is Andrea Johnson. I'm 28 years old, and if you had asked me 2 years ago, I would have sworn I had found the love of my life. I wasn't the type people noticed first when walking into a room. I was dependable, steady, the one who always remembered birthdays, showed up on time, and followed through on promises. Not flashy, not unpredictable, just safe. And for a while, I thought safe was enough. Then came Adrian. From the beginning, he seemed larger than life. He had that magnetic smile that drew people in, the kind of easy charm that made waiters laugh and strangers lean closer. Compared to him, I was the quiet one, but he chose me, or at least I thought he did. We met through a trivia night our mutual friends had set up. I handled the history and geography questions. Adrian crushed pop culture like it was second nature. We laughed until our cheeks hurt. He leaned across the table and said, "You make smart look fun, Andrea." At the time, I melted. Looking back, maybe it was his way of labeling me quiet, dependable, safe. Our relationship looked picture perfect on the outside. Movie nights, dinners out, weekend drives. He would brag about how thoughtful I was, how I always picked up his favorite coffee before his shift, how I stayed up late to quiz him before big presentations. I gave him consistency. He gave me excitement. That's what I thought was balance. But cracks were there. Adrian needed attention like oxygen. If someone complimented me, he'd grin and joke. "Don't praise her too much, or she'll forget how to make her terrible pancakes." Everyone laughed. I did too. I told myself it was harmless teasing. And I loved him. I paid half his rent when his hours were cut. I turned down a relocation promotion because he said long distance would crush him. I drove him to his younger sister's games every Saturday because he hated sitting in traffic. I gave and gave because I thought we were building a future. But Adrian, he liked being admired more than he liked being loved. I didn't let myself see that until the night everything broke. It was a party one of our mutual friends threw. Loud music, too much beer, coworkers and classmates all jumbled together. Adrian thrived at these things, always with a glass in hand, the center of a circle. I stayed close, watching, smiling when he pulled me in for a quick kiss to remind people I was his. Then someone asked how we'd gotten together. I thought he'd tell the trivia story or mention how I always remembered the little things that mattered to him. Something sweet. Instead, he smirked, tilted his head back for drama, and said loud enough for the whole room to hear. Honestly, dating Andrea felt like community service. I had to give back somehow, right? The room fell quiet, just for a beat. Then nervous chuckles. Adrian doubled down, waving his hand like it was the best joke of the night. "No, but seriously, she's so dependable it's like adopting a rescue cat. You just do it out of the goodness of your heart." This time the laughter was real, at my expense. I felt every eye flick toward me, waiting to see if I'd laugh too, waiting to see if I'd be a good sport about being the punchline. And for a moment I froze. I wanted to lash back to cut him down with words sharp enough to match the wound in my chest. But what came wasn't anger, it was clarity. This was who Adrian really was. Not just the playful digs, not just the flirting at bars that he brushed off as harmless. This public humiliation dressed up as humor was his truth. I wasn't his partner. I was his project. So I didn't argue. I didn't give him a scene to feed off of. I set my drink down, picked up my coat, and walked out. No slammed doors, no tears. Just silence. I heard his voice chasing me through the crowd. "Wait, what, babe? I'm joking." I kept walking. "Oh, come on, don't be dramatic. It was funny." But I didn't stop. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would crack my ribs, but my face was calm, detached. For the first time in years, I wasn't playing along. By the time I reached my car, my phone was buzzing with his name lighting up the screen. I ignored it. Drove to my own apartment, sat on the edge of the bed in the dark, and let the silence wash over me. That was the night everything broke, and the night I learned that sometimes silence can cut deeper than any words. When I woke up the next morning, sunlight was already creeping across my floor. My phone screen glowed like it hadn't slept at all, dozens of missed calls, endless notifications. I didn't open a single one. At first, Adrian's messages were defensive. "Andrea, seriously, you're embarrassing me. Everyone thought it was just a joke. You could have laughed. God, you're so sensitive sometimes." By afternoon, the tone shifted. "I love you, okay? Don't throw everything away over one stupid comment. You know I was kidding. Please pick up." By nightfall, the guilt trips began. Wow. So you're just going to ghost me after everything I did for you, unreal. You're lucky I put up with your moods, Andrea. Anyone else would have left ages ago. The words lit up my phone, one after another, like fireworks that fizzled before they could even touch me. I didn't answer, not once. Instead, I sat in the stillness of my apartment, noticing how quiet it was, without him filling every corner of my life. At first, the silence was suffocating, like being underwater. But after a while, I realized it wasn't drowning me, it was cleansing me. 2 days later, one of my friends who'd been at the party texted, "You okay?" That was brutal. Nobody thought it was funny. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying, "I'm fine." It wasn't true, not entirely. My chest still ached, my stomach twisted whenever I replayed the scene in my mind. But when she wrote back, "You did the right thing," something in me loosened. For the first time in a long time, I believed someone when they said that. Meanwhile, Adrian's messages kept coming. Defensive, then pleading, then furious, then desperate, like a pendulum swinging out of control. One voicemail stood out. His voice cracked as he said, "I can't sleep. I feel like I'm losing my mind and you don't even care. Just talk to me, please." I closed my eyes as it played, and instead of pity, I felt relief, because I finally understood. He wasn't sorry for what he'd done. He was sorry for the consequences. He missed the convenience of me, my loyalty, my steadiness, my ability to make his world easier. He didn't miss me. And that realization was like a door clicking shut. So I muted the thread, placed my phone face down, and let the silence grow. Each day that passed, I felt myself shifting. Grief still lingered, but it wasn't the sharp kind anymore. It was dull, fading. Beneath it was something else cold, strong, and steady. Resolve. And for the first time in years, I felt like I wasn't shrinking to fit beside someone else's light. I was beginning to find my own. I didn't tell anyone what happened. I didn't need to. The party had done that for me. Word spread faster than I ever could have imagined. Adrian had made the community service joke loud enough for the whole room to hear, and people talk. At first, he tried to spin it. "He's too sensitive," he told our friends. "Andrea can't take a joke. I can't date someone who's that uptight." But apparently, when people repeated the line back, dating Andrea felt like community service. It didn't sound like a harmless joke anymore. It sounded cruel. One by one, I noticed the subtle shifts. Invitations that once had both our names on them now had only mine. Group chats stayed silent for him, but alive for me. A mutual friend confessed they had even removed him from one of the threads after people got tired of his self-justifications. Meanwhile, my phone stopped buzzing. Adrian's texts slowed from dozens a day to just a handful, then eventually nothing. He must have noticed the distance growing, because suddenly his posts online got louder. Selfies at bars, captions like "unbothered," "stronger than ever," pictures with bottles of champagne and neon lights. A new girl on his arm, almost instantly loud, flashy, the type who wore sequin dresses to backyard parties. Her name was Serena. I didn't stalk them. I didn't need to. Screenshots found their way to me through friends the way gossip always does. In every picture, Adrian was front and center, sunglasses on, indoors shirt, unbuttoned, halfway, holding Serena close, like she was a trophy. His captions made me roll my eyes. Finally, someone who matches my energy. It stung, of course. 2 years of my life, 2 years of sacrifices reduced to a single swipe into something shinier, louder, newer. But instead of breaking me, it clarified things further. Because it wasn't love he wanted, it was an audience. And Serena gave him that for now. While he was performing online, I was rebuilding my life offline. I started running in the mornings again, the kind of long runs I used to love before Adrian filled every weekend with his plans. I cooked meals for myself, real ones, not just takeout eaten in the car while rushing to pick him up from somewhere. I stayed late at work by choice, throwing myself into projects instead of throwing them away for his convenience. Every day felt like reclaiming pieces of myself I hadn't realized I'd given up. And while my life grew steadier, his started to fray at the edges. I heard little things in whispers and passing comments. Friends saying Adrian had shown up late to a dinner drunk, making jokes nobody laughed at. How he'd bragged about Serena in one breath, then complained she was too much in the next. The same charm that once made him magnetic now rang hollow. And the irony wasn't lost on me. For years, I had been the one making him look stable, dependable, worth respecting. Without me, the cracks showed. And soon those cracks would widen into something much deeper. Because Adrian's downfall wasn't just beginning, it was already in motion. It didn't take long for the shine to fade. The same way Adrian had once dazzled me, he dazzled Serena, but only for a little while. Whispers started to reach me, carried on the same breeze of gossip that had once spread his community service joke. People had seen him out at bars, at restaurants, even at a rooftop party with other women. He wasn't even subtle about it, laughing too close, touching arms that weren't Serena's. And once someone swore they caught him kissing another woman in plain sight like loyalty had never been a word in his vocabulary. When Serena confronted him, it wasn't quiet. From what I heard, she'd waited until they were out at dinner in front of people. She demanded answers. and Adrian, true to form, laughed in her face. "What did you expect?" he said, his voice carrying enough for strangers to hear. "You're fun, but you're not the only one." The humiliation I had carried in silence at that party, Serena carried in public under neon lights. And the symmetry of it hit me like poetry. From that night on, his posts changed. Gone were the cocky selfies, the captions dripping with bravado. In their place, vague quotes about betrayal, black and white photos of half-empty glasses, long rambling rants and stories that vanished within 24 hours. His unbothered act had cracked, and everyone could see through it. Meanwhile, the same friends who once laughed at his jokes started rolling their eyes. Group dinners went on without him. People whispered that he was exhausting, that he turned every conversation back to himself. For the first time in years, Adrian wasn't the star of the room. He was the echo. And I watched it all from a distance, not gloating, not pitying, just calm, detached. Because I realized I didn't have to plot revenge. I didn't have to prove him wrong. Karma was doing all the heavy lifting for me. In the quiet of my apartment, I found myself almost smiling at the thought, not out of cruelty, but because life had finally turned the mirror back on him. And it was showing him everything he had refused to see. The first message came late one night. "Hey, I was just thinking about you. Hope you're okay." No apology, no acknowledgement. Just a fishing line tossed into the dark, hoping I'd bite. I didn't. A week later, another text lit up my phone. "Drove past that taco place you love. Remember how you ate like 5 in one sitting?" Again, nostalgia dressed up as small talk, as if one happy memory could erase years of subtle digs and one unforgettable betrayal. I ignored that too. Then the calls started, always late, always after midnight. At first I let them ring out, but eventually curiosity got the better of me and I listened to the voicemails. His voice didn't sound like Adrian's anymore. It was thinner, frayed at the edges. "I don't understand why you're ignoring me. I know I messed up, but we had something real right. Please just call me back, please." One message bled into the next. Angry ones. "So, this is it. You're just gonna throw away 2 years over one comment. Grow up." Sad ones. "I miss you. Nobody knows me like you do." Manipulative ones. "I can't sleep. I feel like my whole life is falling apart and you don't even care." And finally, desperate ones. "Can we just talk, please? I'll fix it. Just one more chance." Each time I listened in silence. Not because I considered going back, but because the contrast was staggering. This was the same man who once lit up every room, who wore his confidence like a crown. Now he was reduced to whispers in the dark, begging into a phone I refused to answer. The temptation wasn't to forgive him. It was to respond just once to remind him of the woman he had underestimated, to say, "You don't get to rewrite the ending, Adrian." But I didn't, because the silence said it for me, louder than words ever could. And while his voice grew smaller, mine quiet, steady patient was finally filling the spaces he had once occupied. The last message I ever received from Adrian was short. No bravado, no guilt trip, no jokes. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I know I can't take it back, but I regret it every day." For a moment, I just stared at the words. There was a flicker in my chest, nostalgia maybe, a reminder that once I had believed in him. But then the truth settled in. He wasn't apologizing for who he was. He was apologizing because he had lost everything that made him feel important. And by then, I had already moved on. My life was bigger now. Work had promoted me into a leadership role I once thought I wasn't ready for. I'd fallen in love again, with the mornings, with my own reflection, with the version of myself I had buried under Adrian's shadow. And yes, eventually with someone new. His name is Tommy. He's nothing like Adrian. Where Adrian sought attention, Tommy gives presence. Where Adrian laughed at my goals, Tommy listens, encourages, even challenges me to dream bigger. With him, I don't feel like a project or a punchline. I feel like a partner. The contrast is staggering. One night, as we walked back from dinner, Tommy reached for my hand without thinking, his thumb brushing gently against mine. And I realized I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. I wasn't holding my breath, bracing for the next cutting joke. I was safe. Not in the way Adrian once mocked, but in the way every heart deserves to feel respected, seen, chosen. Adrian's voice has long since faded from my phone. His presence has faded from our friends' lives. The man who once made me feel small is now just an echo of a story I no longer carry with shame. Because here's the thing. I learned the best revenge isn't anger. It isn't proving yourself or crafting the perfect comeback. It's indifference. It's walking away and building something better without them. Adrian thought dating me was community service, but in the end, being with him taught me the most important lesson of my life.